Americans for Fair Taxation presents the weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, president of Americans for Fair Taxation, and recorded by Bob Paxton, a volunteer with the Florida Fair Tax Educational Association. And now, this week's Chairman's Report.
Hello, I'm Bob Paxton with the AFFT Chairman's Report for Friday, October 17th, 2025. No tax on tips, a simple idea until Congress got involved. Now here's an example that shows the typical congressional bureaucratic response to a simple problem. This is from the Department of Simple Ideas, Office of Complexity Management, Form 10-L. Simple Idea Implementation Request. Section A. Plain language idea. Describe your simple idea in 10 words or less. Okay? Fill the pothole on 3rd Street. Section B. Government translation. Translate into official language and attach 12 pages. Initiate a pothole mitigation and equity initiative. Publish environmental narrative in a 90-day comment period. Establish interagency arboreal stakeholder consultative roundtable. And Phase 0, the pre-asphalt readiness assessment. Now Section D, safety and neutrality. Affirm that your idea contains no chairs, ladders, wires, liquids, or opinions. Applicant signature date upon final rulemaking, and finally the public burden estimate, 90 minutes plus 18 months of comments. Now the above example helps explain the legislation that Congress passed in response to President Trump's promise to help people who receive tips as a major part of their income. A recent article at jdsupra.com discussed the Treasury Department's preliminary list of 68 occupations that may claim a tax deduction for tips. Now here's some of the article's main points. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act, instead of no tax on all tips, said that certain tips will not be taxable up to $25,000 if the requirements are met. To qualify, individuals must make less than $150,000 or $300,000 for a married couple. Also, you must be working at a job that customarily and regularly receives tips on or before December 31st, 2024. Now, there are 8 categories of jobs which are allowed to claim this deduction. Now, most make sense, like waiters, bartenders, and parking attendants. But some are rather curious. Self-enrichment teachers? What are those? Others not normally associated with getting tips, like residential plumbers, air conditioning mechanics and installers, locksmith, and residential electricians are also included. Now, the article stresses that these are preliminary lists and there will be new forms to create that will need to be filed to qualify for this tip exclusion from income. Now, there are some curious occupations on this list. Electricians, plumbers, air conditioning installers, and repair people. They must have a pretty good lobby. Now, of course, many pages of regulations will be required to ensure that providers do not reduce their charges if you agree to give them a tip. You can easily see how this will spiral into more bureaucracy and more complications. 2/3 of taxpayers pay more in federal payroll taxes than in personal income taxes. Now, if Congress really wanted to help lower income people, as they proclaim, then wouldn't this no tax on tip provision exempt tip income from payroll taxes? Well, it doesn't. A single parent with 2 children who receives $25,000 in tips and $20,000 in wages today pays no federal income taxes after deducting child tax credits and the impact of the earned income tax credit. But they'll still pay $3,442 in payroll taxes. After the exclusion of $25,000 in tip income, the single parent with 2 children still pays no federal income tax, but still pays that $3,442 in payroll taxes. In conclusion, Mr. President, if you really want no tax on tips, then why are you trying to accomplish this through the broken and destructive income payroll tax system? Under the fair tax, the single parent with 2 children will pay no fair tax on the first $45,000 of retail purchases of goods and services because of the family consumption allowance. They will owe no payroll taxes either because the fair tax replaces those payroll taxes. Every dollar earned will be theirs to keep. And if they earn more than $25,000 in tips, they'll pay no tax until that money is spent on new retail goods and services. Now, if they decide to purchase a used car, no fair tax on that purchase. Let's reward people who earn more and let all of us determine how much federal tax we pay. Now, if there was no alternative to the irrational and unfair income payroll tax system, U.S. citizens would just have to tolerate it for the good of the country. However, there is an alternative, the fair tax, a national retail sales tax on new retail goods and retail services. The fair tax provides a family credit so that all purchases up to the poverty level for each family are not taxed, and there's no withholding from your paycheck, and you never have to file a tax return again telling the government how much you earned and how much you spent. Now, many of you have labored tirelessly for freedom from the federal income tax and the IRS. You deserve a great deal of credit for your efforts to educate the American people on the need to fund the American government in a way that's good for America and that returns freedom to the American people. It's imperative, though, that we don't replace the current income tax in the IRS with an alternative system that can still be manipulated by the ruling elite. We must let Congress and the President know that the best way to replace the income tax in the IRS is with the fair tax. Now, make no mistake about it. The fair tax is a grave threat to the ruling elites. It will strip them of their power and their ability to control us through the tax system. Their opposition to the fair tax will be fierce and unrelenting, and don't think for an instant they won't use half-truths, deception, and downright lies in their desperate attempt to hang on to their power. However, with the support of this president, we can finally eliminate the income tax and the IRS. Now, of course, the best course of action is not only to repeal the income tax and abolish the IRS, but to repeal the 16th Amendment as well so that no future administration can ever shackle the American people with an income tax again. We must come together and ensure that real tax reform, the fair tax, is not subverted by the elites in D.C. This will take the diligent efforts from all of us. We need your financial assistance, and we need your grassroots assistance. Now, if you have contacts that will allow us to get more information about the fair tax to President Trump, please let us know. Also, please email us at info@fairtax.org, and we'll give you some options on how you can best help us. At a minimum, please call your congressional representative and ask if he or she supports the fair tax. If so, thank him or her for their support and suggest they become a co-sponsor of H.R. 25 if they're not one already. If not, ask why not. Now, if your representative claims to be unfamiliar with the fair tax, offer to have someone come to their office and explain it to them. The solution: pass the fair tax. Now, why would D.C. pass the fair tax and give up an almost unlimited source of donations? Well, they won't, at least not voluntarily. The only way they will is if the rest of us demand it. Isn't it time to end this ludicrous tax collection system in the IRS along with it? Help bring about real tax reform and stop future IRS abuses. By contributing, or actually investing, $10.40 a month, you help provide a financial base to Americans for fair taxation. Now, if you can make larger contributions/investments, these will be used not for salaries, as we're all volunteers, but for the needed updates to our economic studies, which will be vital for all future years. Please go to fairtax.org to invest in AFFT and help us pass the fair tax. It's an investment in your and your family's future.
This has been the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, President of Americans for Fair Taxation. Check back every week for news and information about the fair tax, and learn why the fair tax should replace our antiquated federal income tax system. If you'd like to receive a copy of the Chairman's Report in your inbox every week, sign up at fairtax.org.